What's going on, guys? This is Mars Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls PvP. Alright guys, we're back at it again for part 2 of the series, and basically no fancy title to it. I mean, this is just a 2-part series featuring me doing a little forest hunting, one of my favorite things, in addition to doing a few Darkwraith invasions. Now, the first part, actually I can't even say the first part. This footage includes both Xbox and PlayStation 3 footage. Right, mainly because during the time that I was doing it, I was running into some kind of slow spots during some forest hunting and Darkwraith invasions while in the garden. So I just went on ahead and switched from Xbox to my PS3. And this right here is PS3 footage. Right, I'm using my level 100 build. Nothing special about it. Alright, so let's see, what do we have going on here? Biohazard. Okay, good to go. Obviously, this person is a faith build, right? And we can tell by the talisman in his hand. In addition to the dark, well, I don't even know what that thing is. Dark crown or something like that. And it looks like he's an R1 spammer. I'm not really sure. I mean, there was a couple times in the past where he just did a whole bunch of R1, R1, R1. Well, we don't really have to worry about too much R1s now. Right? Alright, so just as I suspected, he's going to be trying to do his clutch move, Wrath of the Gods, now that his or her vitality is low. But we no longer have to worry about that, as you all can see. Alright, so let me try to... Okay, so this person is trying to summon a phantom. Okay, so is this person a part of the covenant or what? Because that's the only way that you can try to summon a second phantom. Person is probably a part of the covenant. But guess what, guys? We don't have to run. You know, to the extent that we still have pretty good vitality, we will just go ahead and try to engage. Right, because like I said plenty of times in the past, this would not be one of those situations where, you know, we sit here and wait for backup. Because in other words, how else will you get better at 2v1s unless you face them head on? Alright, so we have a flasker. No problem, because I mean, there's no reason why anyone should expect for these guys not to flask. I mean, they're in here ganking for whatever reason that they are ganking. And, you know, because they're trying to survive as long as possible, they will naturally flask, right? So I'm not one of those guys that get bent out of shape because I noticed them doing something that I should have expected them to do to begin with. And that's one of the reasons why I never understood why those guys say, oh my God, they're flasking. Dude, this is not a 1v1 match, right? This is not a so-called honorable duel, right? And that's the same reason why we just basically go buck wild on these guys as much as we can. Because it's not an honorable duel. There's no limitations. Right? For a lot of you guys that are pretty new to the game, or maybe, you know, you just kind of stick with certain communities, right? Certain Honor Brigade communities. Listen, huge difference between random invasions and formal matchups. Right, and this is, like I've said in the past, the main reason why I prefer random invasions. I can play however I like, without any limitations, and without anybody messaging me talking about how honorable or dishonorable I am. I just want to have fun. Right, but we don't have to reiterate on that. Now, these guys with these spears, you know, they just put too much faith into those spears, thinking that you cannot parry them, guys. But hey, listen, to the extent you guys are new to the channel, I have a parry 101 and 102 video. These guys just do not learn, do they? I have a parry 101 and 102 video wherein I demonstrate the easiest ways to parry these R1 spear spammers. Right, so in the event that you guys are having a hard time with these spears, and to the same extent that you are dealing with R1 spammers, go ahead and check out that 2-part series. And I can't really remember whether it's parry instructions 102 or 103. And actually I missed that one right there. I can't remember whether it's parry instructions 102 or 103 wherein I cover the spears, but just check out both, right? Hopefully you guys will get some good information, especially if you're kind of new to PvP in general and parrying fast weapons in particular. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and mess with this guy a little bit. I mean, he's obviously new, so I'm just kind of toying around with him. And that's why I'm not going to go ahead and repulse. So after several times of R1 spamming, I guess he'll just go ahead and bring out his B plan with his high speed 10 crystallization catalyst and his white magics. But guess what, guys? To the extent that I am pretty much in your face and you haven't unlocked and manually aimed down, I mean, it's going to be kind of hard for you to get me with a headshot. Well, at least in some case it is, especially with the soul spears, because I think the tracking is a little different with these soul spears than what it is with the, you know, infamous dark beads. Alright, just try to get him with a few jump attacks, for which I was unsuccessful. Toy with him a little bit with those parry attempts. Come on, dude, let's get some face-to-face action going on. Alright, and I'm going to assume that this guy is a higher level, mainly because he's using the Great Sword of Artorias. Well, maybe not, because if you guys would notice, that Great Sword of Artorias is not really doing a lot of damage. Right now, I do know in the higher levels, that Great Sword of Artorias, I mean, those things can hit you for like 1,000 damage easily with a critical attack, and in some cases 900 with a backstab. Right, so I don't know, maybe he was just a fan of how that weapon looked, because it really didn't do that much damage. Alright, we have the classics going on, definitely the classics, right, using this Hornet Ring. But guess what? I have a dark bead spammer on my team, so you guys are in trouble. Now, let's talk about that particular dark magic. And I can't really remember what the name of it is off the top of my head, but I think it was Pastry. Shout out to Pastry. The other day we had a few matches in the forest, and that guy kept hitting me with that over and over again. And I'm thinking the timing on it is so slow, right? It's kind of like as soon as you see a dark magic firing up, you almost automatically assume for it to be a dark bead, for which, I mean, your automatic instinct is just to jump through it. But that particular, I think it's dark orb, that's what it's called. If you're not really used to guys casting that dark orb, I mean, you can really get caught up on it, mainly because the timing is so slow and awkward. And actually, I don't know if the casting speed is increased with, 45 in dexterity, or if it's the same. Either way it go, I think I might have to experiment with it a little bit on my caster builds, because it can really throw you off. Well, at least it throws me off with that awkward timing. Alright, so I just got pieced up by the two girls. Shout out to you two. Alright, so we're good to go. Let's see. Vim Beans. Alright, so let's see what Vim Beans is going to bring to the table. Alright, so look like we have a mage as a Sombro. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that shield, but that shield was super OP when the game first came out. Now, I mean, they nerfed it and it's pretty much crap now. But I know when this game first came out, that crystal ring shield was super OP. Now, unfortunately, I mean, the physical resistance or the physical damage pretty much sucked. But it didn't really matter because the damage that you were able to inflict with those R2s could definitely compensate. Alright, so she hit me off with a backstab right there. Too late on the draw with that parry for that charge attack. And to the extent that you guys are not familiar, you can definitely parry those R2s, right? And like I gave an earlier reference, go ahead and check out my parry instructions 102 or 103, for which we give a demonstration on parrying those R2s. And I think it's parry instructions 103 where we cover the Moonlight Great Sword. Alright, so we just had a little 3 spamming black magics for the win, and at my detriment, but it's all good, right? Just another day in the life as a Darkwraith. Alright, so Invincible BR, and I'm thinking he's from Brazil because actually shout out to good old Zangief BR. There's a few guys that I know that have BR. You know, it's kind of like they have a name and it's hyphenated with a BR, and actually they're from Brazil, so I'm going to assume that this person may also be from Brazil. Alright, so shout out to all my Portuguese speaking Brazilians out there. This guy's an R1 spammer, and I don't know why. I think he's taken for granted that he's basically going to just off me with that Murakumo. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and try to deter this person from using Flask. And not fast enough on the draw. So GG to good old Invincible BR. Alright, so what's next? So once again, for all you guys that are not familiar with the channel, I have a Battle of the Builds series. So if you guys have any groovy builds out there, just go ahead. And actually, when I say groovy, I'm not talking about your typical katana dex build. Right, we see a lot of those. Let's see some of those unique builds and go ahead and volunteer. And hopefully, if it's a good series, I can go ahead and add you on to the Battle of the Builds roster. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you know, I get some of these guys who, you know, after looking at a certain upload in the series, they'll say, well, you know, that person sucked or you sucked. Listen, guys, it's not about who sucked and who doesn't in the Battle of the Build series. It's all about showcasing unique builds to spark player creativity. Right now, granted, I mean, I'm going to play how I usually play, but at the end of the day, it's not about, you know, who plays the best, right? Because at the end of the day, while some of you guys are making comments as to how good or bad someone plays, my thing is at least someone is volunteering something. And, you know, this seems to be the difference, in my personal opinion, between people who are trying to make constructive contributions to the community and people who are just salty. Right? There's definitely a difference. Case in point, there's a popular forum out there that I've been checking out some of the topics. Right? And it seems as though there are a lot of people out there who just hate contributors just for the sake of hating. Right? And you know, I read the subjects, I read the titles. And you know, when I read it, I'm thinking to myself like, dude, now if you really like this community, you know, like I do, right? Whether you like my channel or not, whether you like my commentaries or not, whether you like my personality style or not. The point is, if you really care about the Dark Souls community and you also love the game, then you will recognize that at least people are making contributions. Whether they are an uploader or whether they are a volunteer in a, Battle of the Build series or Battle of the Uploader series or whatever it is that they are volunteering. At least they are doing something. There are so many people out there that are really salty, but it seems as though, they're just being salty for the sake of being salty. Now, this is not to say that you cannot disagree with something, nor is it to say that you cannot dislike something. But what I'm saying is, if you really care about the Dark Souls community, then understand that there are people who are taking their time and their energy to, bring views or, do whatever it is that they're doing. Case in point, there's a guy out there, and he uploaded a montage that I checked it out. I checked it out. It was pretty cool. As a matter of fact, I watch a lot of videos from plenty of uploaders. Personally, was it the best footage in my personal opinion? It wasn't really the best, right? But at the end of the day, if it was something that I didn't like, or something that maybe it wasn't all that impressive, the fact that he's making a contribution is sufficient enough for me to say, you know what? I don't need to make a comment. Right? In other words, if it's something I dislike, do I really have to make negative comments? Especially when I see that someone is at least contributing something? No. And this is why there's a difference between being salty or just maybe leaving a constructive criticism. Right? Because that's one thing I have definitely learned personally. I remember when I first started uploading, and actually this was kind of before I started uploading, I would watch a video and I would basically, just leave all kind of critical comments, right? And then, I would sit back and I would say to myself, hold on, if I really like this game and I really care about, making good contributions to this community, maybe I should do my own uploads as opposed to just sitting back and criticizing other uploaders. And actually, that's what caused me to upload my own videos. Right? So this is why when I see a lot of guys, especially guys starting out on YouTube, I would like to check out their channel and leave positive comments because I know what it's like starting out. Especially when you're doing commentaries, because commentaries are not easy. They are very difficult, especially if you don't have prior experience, doing a whole bunch of talking and commenting for, a pretty lengthy period of time, kind of like what I'm doing, right? So, to all you guys that are kind of interested in doing commentaries or new to uploading, keep the faith, guys. Don't get discouraged. There's a lot of salty guys out there that are just basically going to leave negative comments that are, and I say they're negative not because, a viewer may disagree or dislike, but just on the point of they'll say something like, you're a crappy player. Come on, dude. The guy is at least trying to make some type of contribution. Leave a constructive comment. Say, well, listen, dude, your video was cool, but at the same time, maybe you might want to try this, or maybe you might want to try that. And that's the difference between a salty person and a person who really cares about the Dark Souls community and its contributors, whether you yourself contribute or you kind of notice the contributions from other people who may be new or not as good as you. Right? So enough ranting about contributors to the Dark Souls community, because there's a lot of guys, and I check their videos out, a lot of guys that are up and coming. Case in point, shout out to Sunlight Blade, shout out to Mr. I Won't Forget. I remember when those guys first came out, especially Sunlight Blade. I remember when that guy first came out, he did a lot of uhs and pauses and long breaks in between his words. And he was basically like, dude, I mean, doing commentaries are very difficult for me. But guess what? He stuck in there, right? And after sticking in there and, perhaps listening to his own commentaries and, perhaps improving from what he noticed was a flaw on his own, I mean, check out his commentaries now. If you guys check out his more recent commentaries, they're awesome, right? His commentaries are awesome. He's learned from his mistakes and he's stuck in there, and they run really smooth. And not only does he have good uploads, but he has a lot of helpful, useful information. The same can be said for good old Mr. I Won't Forget. I remember when he first came out, especially with commentaries, because granted, he did the kind of entertainment themed videos, but a little later on, I guess I can start talking. And just like most of us, he may have stuttered a little bit or maybe stumbled on some of the things that he wanted to say. But if you check out Mr. I Won't Forget's videos, that guy is 100% dedicated to the community. And I'm pretty sure he may get some salty comments or guys making criticisms that are not the best or not constructive, but the fact is that guy makes tons of contributions to this community. And I like to applaud not only Mr. I Won't Forget, not only Sunlight Blade, but for everyone out there who is at least dedicated to this community enough to where they are trying and they're spending their time and their effort to make for good contributions and good uploads. All right, I appreciate all you guys because you guys are at least doing something. All right, so enough ranting about the difference between salty souls and guys who legitimately care about this community. All right, guys, well, that's it for the two-part series. I hope you guys enjoyed the commentary in both parts in addition to the footage. Well, until next time, Martyrs Brigade is